I'm not much of a moviegoer. I don't really watch any movies in theaters, and when I do, they're almost always animated films, since I am an animation fan after all. Of course, there are live action films I do like, but in general, I just don't have much interest in most live action films. I'm not really a fan of any live action film franchise. I've never seen a single Star Wars movie, or Lord of the Rings movie, or Harry Potter movie, or any live action superhero movies from Marvel or DC, and I don't plan on watching any movies from any of those franchises anytime soon. I'm definitely out of the loop when it comes to any film franchise. Of course, sometimes you watch a movie, not realizing it's part of a film franchise, and not having seen any other film from the franchise, and you end up liking that one specific movie. As for me, there is one film that definitely falls in that category for me. It's one that I own on DVD and did watch a few times as a kid, not having any knowledge about the movie franchise it came from, and to this day, I've still never seen any other movie from the franchise. Despite that though, it is a movie I enjoy and think merits talking about. Put on your spacesuit and get ready to take evasive action because it's time to talk about Zathura. Zathura, A Space Adventure, or simply Zathura, is a 2005 film directed by Jon Favreau, who also directed Elf, Iron Man, the 2016 live-action Jungle Book, and the 2019 live-action Lion King. The film is the second movie in the Jumanji franchise, although it is considered to be a standalone movie with a self-contained plot. Jon Favreau himself has even discouraged the notion that Zathura is a sequel to the 1995 Jumanji film starring Robin Williams, despite the film being marketed as From the World of Jumanji. For the record, I've never seen any of the other Jumanji films, and I had no idea this movie was even part of the franchise until a few years ago. Of all of Jon Favreau's films, Zathura seems to be one of the least well known. I think this is due to the fact that the film was not a commercial success. The film barely broke even at the box office, only just making back its $65 million budget. Plus, when you consider money spent on marketing and advertising, the film probably ended up costing more money than it earned. I never actually saw the film in theaters myself, but like I said, I do own it on DVD, which is how I know about it. I remember liking the film as a kid, but now that I'm an adult, I can give it a more grown-up perspective. So, what do I think about it now that I'm an adult? Well, let's just see. The film is about two brothers named Danny and Walter. Danny and Walter have a very difficult family relationship due to the fact their parents are divorced, and they live with each parent separately for different parts of each week. Danny and Walter don't get along and constantly fight and argue with each other. They also have an older teenage sister named Lisa whom they also don't get along with very well. While staying at their father's house, the two of them get into a fight, and their father, struggling to mediate their fights, leaves to go to a meeting, leaving a napping Lisa in charge. Their father's house is very old and creaky, and the boys are upset about being left alone there. After another fight, Walter traps Danny in the basement, which Danny is afraid of. While down there, Danny finds an old vintage science fiction themed board game called Zathura, and after making his way back upstairs, decides to play it. Zathura is a map-based game where the goal is to reach the final space on the board. Instead of rolling a die, the player must wind a key and then press a button. This generates a random number between 1 and 9, which determines how many spaces forward one player moves. The player pieces are two small ships built into the game board. Once the ship moves its required number of spaces, the game will spit out a card. The first card reads, Meteor Shower, take evasive action. Almost immediately, a meteor shower hits the living room and the boys take shelter. They soon realize that their father's house is now floating in outer space, and every move they make on the game affects reality. Walter finally agrees to play with Danny, concluding that the only way home is to finish the game. It's also established that they must take turns, and that one of them cannot play for the other. As they continue playing the game, more and more dangers appear for them to overcome, with varying degrees of risk. The film continues to unfold as it goes on, and some of the dangers presented by the game include Walter almost getting killed by a defective robot, and even losing the game, posing the risk that without the game, they will be stranded in space forever. Many of the various dangers interweave with each other, and one danger doesn't simply vanish once the next turn is taken. Regardless, the two of them need to overcome all the dangers and continue playing the game, lest they want to be stuck in space forever. Zathura is a very immersive movie. Much like a black hole in outer space, it really sucks you into the story and makes you wonder what's going to happen next. It definitely keeps the viewer on edge as it's unknown what will happen next and if they will even finish the game or not. One thing I really want to give this movie props for is the writing. Like I said, the movie does really engage the viewer and makes them wonder what's going to happen next, and if the characters will even make it out alive. Beyond that, this movie also makes really good use of foreshadowing, and having things that happen earlier in the movie come back. For example, early in the movie, Danny ends up accidentally ripping off the antenna off of one of Walter's walkie-talkies. In the second half of the movie, this ends up coming back when they end up using these same walkie-talkies to communicate after getting the broken one fixed. Another example is that one of the cards Walter ends up getting from the game says, reprogram. He has no idea what that means and reckons the card could be used for something later. And he ends up being right. I also like the fact they mention and show that their father's house is quite old. The floorboards are creaky and has a dumbwaiter in it, which... How many modern houses do you know that have dumbwaiters? I feel like it makes some conceptual sense for Danny to find this old board game in the basement since the house itself is old. Plus, there is some juxtaposition between this game being space-themed and futuristic, but the game itself being old. You can tell the game was designed to be sort of a 60s retro-style Cold War-era space-themed board game, and the old houses it was probably built around the same time the game came out, maybe even earlier. It's a subtle detail, but definitely shows the foresight on the part of the writers on establishing the setting. And let's just say that's not the only foresight in regards to the writing and design of the game. From beginning to end, the movie is pretty strong writing and does a great job establishing the setting, the characters, and even the world building. Of course, it's not worth it to try and question, how did the house even end up in outer space? Or how does this game even affect reality? Or wouldn't the neighbors notice that a house in their block just disappeared? It's just something you're supposed to accept, though I imagine MatPat would have a number of theories to answer those questions. The whole ending up in outer space plot point isn't really explained in the movie, probably because it expects you to come to your own conclusions on how it happens, or if it actually happens at all. Oh, and one more thing, this movie is rated PG. Now there's no blood or extremely graphic content, but there is a little bit of swearing. There's no F-bombs, but there are a few lines of dialogue that do have a character swear.
Dodgers win! You're such a dick!
What does it do?
Anything I want. Give me a juice box, biatch.
Frankly, I'm a little surprised my parents let me watch this movie as a kid given that. But they use it sparingly, and if those lines were removed or changed, the story would pretty much be the same, and this movie would be perfectly fine for a TVY7 audience to see. Let's talk about the characters. Danny is 6 3/4 years old. He's bored due to his father constantly working and wishes to play a game with Walter, which Walter initially refuses. He is also jealous of his older brother due to the fact that he's much better at catch than he is, and wishes that he had his brother's abilities, something Walter often mocks him for. He could be described as the baby of the family since he is the youngest and is more easily scared of things, particularly the house's old creaky basement. He also seems to be dyslexic, as he has difficulty reading.
Meaty, meat, or shoe. Meaty, or shoe.
Meteor shower, take evasive action.
Rest on standing astroturf.
What?
Rest on standing astroturf. Let me read it.
No, I know how to read. I know how to read.
Let me read it.
God. Rescue stranded astronaut.
10-year-old Walter, on the other hand, is great at catch and likes sports very much. He often mocks his brother for his poor sports abilities, calls him baby, and believes that he's entitled to more turns at catch than Danny. He's also usually the one who starts most of the fights he has with Danny and constantly blames him for everything, even when it's not Danny's fault. He also accuses Danny of cheating at board games, which was his reason for initially refusing to play a game with him. Lisa is basically the stereotypical preppy teenage girl. She's actually inactive for half the film, as she's asleep until Danny and Walter wake her up to try and tell her they're in outer space to no avail. Then when she goes to the bathroom to get ready for a date she has that night, Danny's next turn cryonically freezes her. She isn't completely useless to the story, though. After waking from cryonic slumber, still unaware that she's in outer space, she turns up the house's heat. This ends up becoming important to the story for reasons I won't say due to spoilers. She actually doesn't even realize that she's in outer space until a little over an hour into the film's runtime.
What is that? What is that? What's going on? Where are we? Somebody please talk to me right now!
I can relate very much to the three children. As someone with an older brother whom I often didn't get along with and an even older sister, I relate a lot to Danny. This is a parallel to my family I definitely noticed even when watching this movie as a kid. I saw myself as Danny, my older brother as Walter, and my even older sister as Lisa. It really makes you relate to the characters when you see siblings whose gender and age order is identical to your own family, similar to how an only child can relate to a character in media who's also an only child. Then we have the astronaut, who is introduced to the film after one of Danny's turns produces him. He ends up helping Danny and Walter by telling them how to get rid of a race of reptilian, carnivorous aliens known as Zorgons, who are attacking the house. The astronaut is hands down my favorite character in the movie. He's a very mature and brave man, and acts as a great father figure and mediator for the boys, trying to resolve their arguments and fights. In some sense, he's an even better father than the boys' actual father. Not to mention that later on in the movie, when we learn about his backstory and how he got stranded in space, we realize that he had a lot of character growth himself. I won't give away his backstory, but let's just say that many of his actions and overall maturity start to make sense when you learn about it. Not to mention that there's a big twist about him that I'm not going to spoil. The only other character worth noting is Danny, Walter, and Lisa's father. He only appears at the beginning and end of the film, so he doesn't have very much impact on the story. He's basically a busy workaholic father. He does genuinely love his kids, but struggles to juggle taking care of them and working. By the way, this movie has a very small cast. There are only 11 actors in this movie. Yeah, you heard me right. 11 actors. And of those 11 actors, only 5 of them actually play humans. Besides the 5 human characters, John Alexander plays a robot, Frank Oz is the voice of the robot, and Derek Mears, Douglas Tate, Joe Bucaro, and Jeff Wolf play the Zorgons, the reptilian race of aliens who appear in the movie. There aren't even any extras in the background during the scenes where Danny and Walter are on Earth outside the house. Despite the very small cast, this movie honestly makes it work. This movie didn't need any more characters. Even Danny, Walter, and Lisa's mother, while she is mentioned throughout the movie, never appears on camera, and again, that's honestly fine given the script. Speaking of the actors, another thing that really impresses me about this movie is the child acting. Casting good child actors isn't easy due to the fact that, by default, children don't tend to make very good actors due to, well, being children. But I have to say, I really am impressed by the child acting in this movie. Jonah Bobo and Josh Hutcherson actually managed to pull off sounding genuinely scared and angry in the movie.
Such a baby.
Hey,
Not
slow,
a baby.
slow down, slow down,
Yes,
slow
you
down.
are a baby. I'm not a baby. You're a baby.
Nobody is a baby.
100%. You're a baby.
No, jeez, it won't stop, please.
I hope you win. I don't care who wins. It's because you never win at anything, Danny.
Hey,
What? That's why he cheats all the time, because he can never win. No, I don't. Yeah, you do. And you almost got me killed. It wasn't my fault. It's not your fault? How is it not your fault? This is all your fault. Everything's your fault. It's your fault Mom and Dad got divorced.
hey.
You suck.
They do genuinely sound like brothers who don't get along arguing with each other. Hearing Danny and Walter scream at each other might not be pleasant, but they don't overdo it to the point where it's unbearable. Also, without spoiling too much, Danny and Walter do learn to stop fighting and love each other as brothers by the end of the movie. There is some genuine character development here as they learn to be nicer to each other. I won't say exactly how playing this game and being in outer space aids with them becoming better brothers, but it is understandable and makes sense story-wise. It's not a cop-out like a Zorgon blasted them with a ray that made them suddenly be kinder to each other or something. Even Kristen Stewart, who plays Lisa, gives a decent performance. I know a lot of people criticize Kristen Stewart's acting, especially in Twilight, but in this movie, she actually manages to pull off sounding and looking genuinely scared and angry.
You guys actually set the house on fire!
Whoa, hey. Just stay with us, and everything will be okay.
I'll never leave you.
Of course, the 2 best actors in this movie are the adults, Danny, Walter, and Lisa's father, and the astronaut. By the way, since this is a sci-fi movie, I suppose I should talk about the visuals and special effects. I think they're actually pretty good. Even watching this movie nearly 2 decades after its release, I still think they hold up for the most part. There's obviously a lot of green screening with the scenes where space is visible from a window or a hole in the house. Then of course there's the scenes where we see the house on the outside in space, achieved using a miniature model of the house and green screening. My favorite special effect is the scene where they pass too close to the star Source 3, and everything in the house is pulled in by the star's gravity. It's pretty impressive how they were able to make the plane of gravity go sideways as opposed to down. Surprisingly, there's actually not too much CGI in this movie. Most of the special effects are practical, which I actually think was a good move. Having lots of CGI would make the film look dated since CGI tends to age quickly. The Zorgon ships aren't CG, they're miniature models, and the flames coming out from the exhaust are real flames. The Zorgons themselves aren't CG either, they're actors wearing costumes, with the heads of the actors digitally removed. CGI is only utilized in the movie when it's absolutely needed, like making the starry background in space. To quote Jon Favreau, on most movies, you just shoot the actors, you shoot green screen, and everybody sort of says, okay, we did our jobs, I can't wait to see what it looks like. And then months and months are spent with digital houses. We did some of that in this movie, but it's so fun to actually shoot real spaceships, or have a real robot running around set, or real Zorgons built by Stan Winston. It gives the actors, especially young actors, so much to work off of. That was definitely a great choice. That's probably also why most of the special effects still look good over a decade and a half later. But you know what else is still good over a decade and a half later? This whole movie. Maybe part of my enjoyment in this movie does come from the nostalgia of me watching it several times as a kid, but even watching it again as an adult, I still think it's pretty good. It's held up remarkably well. The central plot of 2 brothers who constantly fight and don't get along, but learn how to get along and be better brothers after having their lives put in risk is a pretty timeless plot, and it's definitely one that I relate to. Beyond that, the writing is solid, the acting is good, the conflicts are biting, the character development is real, and the special effects still hold up today. It's such a shame this movie ended up being a box office bomb, and that it barely seems to be remembered. I've never seen any of the other Jumanji movies or really know much about the franchise, but it seems the mainline Jumanji movies seem to have more notoriety than Zathura does. Maybe someday I'll check out the Jumanji movies, but as someone who hasn't seen them, you don't have to have seen them to watch Zathura. You can watch the movie without any prior knowledge of Jumanji and still be able to enjoy it. As of the release of this video, Zathura is available on Netflix in Canada, so if you're Canadian like me, or it's on Netflix where you live in the world, you can check it out there if you don't own the DVD like me. Overall, Zathura: A Space Adventure is a very good movie that I definitely recommend. I rate an 8 out of 10. Absolutely worth a watch. But I want to hear from you. Have you seen Zathura? If so, what do you think of it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in the middle? If you've never seen it, did my review interest you to check it out? Let me know in the comments. If you wish to check it out, then you've definitely made a better wish than the astronaut in the movie did.